Hi, good morning, everyone.
Good morning, sir.
In the last lecture, we have seen that every continuous function on closed interval attains its bounds. Also, we have proved that every continuous function on closed interval is bounded. So, these are two fundamental results which are very important. So, recall this thing. If f from closed interval AB to R is continuous, then f is bounded. So this was the first result. Yesterday we have proved. And the second one was this. If f from closed interval AB to R is continuous, then f attains its maximum and minimum. So these are the two results which we have discussed in yesterday's lectures. Today we are going to prove very important result. The name of the result is intermediate value theorem. Not only for examination purpose, but it is also important for application purpose. Name of the result is intermediate value theorem. Many times this has been asked in the university examination. State and prove intermediate value theorem. So first of all, what does it tells us? Let me say, if f is a continuous function on closed interval AB, or f is function from closed interval AB to R which is continuous, then f assumes every value between its maximum and minimum. This is the statement. Every continuous function defined on AB assumes every value between its maximum and minimum. So, or we can write in this way. let f from closed interval ab to r be continuous function and m is equal to supremum of x and small m is equal to infimum of fx. And for any value between small m and capital M, there exists some C belongs to AB such that f of c equal to alpha. See, every continuous function on closed interval assumes every value between its minimum and maximum. That is, if you take any number alpha between its infimum and supremum, and always you can find out some element c from closed interval AB such that image of that element is exactly equal to alpha. So in the broad sense we can say that every continuous function on closed interval assumes every value between its infimum and supremum or its maximum and minimum. So now the question comes in our mind, why this supremum exists and why this infimum exists. Since we have taken a continuous function f from closed interval AB to R, it is bounded subset of R. And in the last lecture we have proved that every continuous function on closed interval assumes its bounds. See, this was the result in the yesterday's lecture we have discussed. If this is continuous, then f attains its maximum and minimum, that is, m is supremum and small m is infimum. So this is the statement of the result, and this is a very important result. Okay, so now let me first of all draw a diagram of the situation so that we can get clear-cut idea. What does it tell us? So suppose this is y-axis, this is x-axis. And let me take function in this. This is my function. This is defined from A to B. This is origin. Okay. So what is maximum value of the function? You can see that maximum occurs here and minimum is somewhere here. So this is M and this is capital M. Okay. So here maximum exists here, minimum exists. So the theorem tells us that if you take any value between small m and capital M, then you can always find out some number between A and B so that f of c equal to alpha. If you take alpha from here, then always you can find out some c from this interval so that f of c equal to alpha. So this is intermediate value theorem. Okay, continuity is needed or necessary condition. It cannot be dropped. Okay, so continuity is necessary. Now let us see the proof of the result. There are two proofs. I will give you both the proof. Both are easy, but little bit lengthy. Not too much lengthy, little bit. So let f from closed interval AB to R be a continuous function. On AB. So we know that every continuous function attains its bound. For there exists P and Q belongs to closed interval AB such that f of P is equal to small m and f of Q that is infimum of fx where x belongs to closed interval AB and f of Q equal to capital M is equal to supremum of AB fx. Okay, so then you can see that since this is infimum and this is supremum and small m less than or equal to fx less than or equal to capital M for every x belongs to closed interval AB. Then that is also you can say that f of P less than or equal to f of x less than or equal to f of Q for every x belongs to closed interval AB. So now let us begin with some number between its infimum and supremum. I want to prove this. This is my claim. What is my claim? For every alpha belongs to R with small m less than or equal to alpha less than or equal to capital M, I want to find out C from closed interval AB such that f of C equal to alpha. So Abhay, tell me from where I should begin. Abhay, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
I should begin with such type of alpha. Okay. So now
Yes, sir.
there are two cases. If small m and capital M are equal, then what happens? Let us see. If these two are same, then small m equal to capital M equal to, and I want to find out some C from closed interval AB so that this is true. And this becomes alpha since last endpoints are same. Therefore, this is equal to alpha. But this is nothing but M is f of P equal to alpha. So now, so your C is nothing but P. Okay. So therefore, there exists C equal to P from closed interval AB such that f of c. So in this case we have done. So we assume that small m and capital M are different. Okay. Here you can see fx becomes alpha for all alpha actually. Actually what happened? See here between ft and fq, fx takes every value. Okay. So these two are same, endpoints are same, therefore fx equal to ft equal to fq. Actually what happened? Fx equal to fp equal to f, and this is equal to alpha. I want at least one point. So there are actually infinitely many points. So now let's assume that m and small m and capital M are different. Okay. Now let us see what we can do in this case. See what is m? M means f of p. Therefore f of p and f of q are different. So since f is a function and f is not equal to fq, therefore p is not equal to q. The reason is this: f is function. Therefore p and q are different. Also note that p and q belongs to closed interval AB. Okay. Therefore you can say that closed interval PQ is contained in closed interval AB, isn't it? Do you understand? This is A, this is P, and this is Q, and this is B. Okay. So now let me define two sets. These sets are important. Define two sets as follows. First, let me give the name of the first set is A. I am choosing X belongs to PQ such that Fx less than or equal to alpha. And the second set is I am choosing X belongs to closed interval PQ such that Fx greater than alpha. So now these two are disjoint sets. Then note that as Fp less than or equal to alpha, why Fp less than or equal to? Now let me, why A and B are non-empty, by the way. Let me first show that A is non-empty. Now I am asking you a question. Vaibhav,
हाँ सर.
why A set is non-empty? Can we give me one element which is in set A?
P ले सकते हैं. Fp is equal to alpha.
Fp is not equal to alpha. You are right that P is in A, but the reason is different. Why P is in A? Suppose you want to show that P belongs to A, you must have to show that f of P less than or equal to alpha. Is it true that f of P less than or equal to alpha? You can see alpha is a number between small m and capital M. What is small m?
Fp.
Fp. So from this you can say that f of p less than or equal to alpha. F of p less than or equal to, what does it mean? P belongs to which set?
A.
A. Therefore A is non-empty. Okay.
तो सर मेरा रीजन सही था ना?
रीजन सही था, लेकिन आपने यहाँ पे इक्वल टू ले लिया था। एफ
हाँ
इक्वल
सर।
टू रीजन मैंने तो वही तो बोला, आपका आंसर सही है लेकिन रीजन गलत। ठीक है, तो fx, here let me take strictly less than. Greater than equals to alpha. As ft less than or equal to alpha, since as m less than or equal to alpha less than or equal to capital M, since m and m are different, so that alpha cannot be equal to small m and capital M. So m is ft less than or equal to alpha less than or equal to f of q. Therefore p belongs to A, and from this you can say that P belongs to, or A is not equal to pi, B is not equal to pi. So now look at the set A. See, let me first of all draw again diagram. How we have defined these sets. This is point A, this is point B, okay. At this point f has maximum value, this is function fx. So at this point, this is our capital M. And this is small m. Small m is f of p, and capital M is f of q. So I have taken one value between small m and capital M, and I have given that name to be alpha. So suppose alpha is somewhere here. Okay. So if you draw a line y equal to alpha, and actually it cuts two times, actually you will get two values. One is here C1 and this is C2. Now let me consider this value. I have drawn a line. So what are the coordinates of this point? So actually y coordinate is alpha, and I want to show that there exists some C, so that C f of c equal to alpha. तो यहाँ पे देखिए, ये fx I have considered this set f set of all values from pq. तो p देखिए यहाँ पे कहीं पे ये q है, ये पॉइंट कौन सा है q है, और ये p है। This is P and this is Q. यहाँ पे actually this will become QP. This interval is nothing but QP. ठीक है, तो ये मैंने क्या किया है, ये अल्फा फंक्शन में कौन सी वैल्यू मैंने ली है, आई हैव चूजन ऑल एफ एक्स सच दैट एक्स फ्रॉम दिस इंटरवल, यहाँ से यहाँ के बीच में, क्यू के बीच में, तो मैंने कौन सी वैल्यू निकाली है, तो इतनी वैल्यू मैंने ली है, ठीक है, दिस मच I have taken set of all x from PQ such that fx is less than alpha. Now tell me why set A is bounded. For all x belongs to A implies x belongs to closed interval PQ implies x less than or equal to Q. Therefore, Q is an upper bound of set A. Therefore, A is non-empty bounded above subset of R. Since R has LUB property, LUB of A exists in R. Actually, there exists some C from AB or f of C or C equal to, actually I want C equal to LUB of A. So I have found one element C from R such that C equal to LUB. Now I will show that if I find out f of C, then f of C must equal to alpha. This is my claim. Actually, first of all, I have taken any alpha between small m and capital M. My target is to find out some C from AB. So I have found some C belongs to R such that LUB of A is C. Clear? Now what is the relation between P and alpha? Note that P belongs to A. P less than or equal to C, because for x less than or equal to C, for every x belongs to A. Okay, P less than or equal to C for all and this is less than or equal to Q. Why this is less than or equal to Q? The reason is this: P belongs to A, and already I have shown that Q is an upper bound of A, and C is the least upper bound. This is the least one, and this is any upper bound. So least one is always smaller than any upper bound. What does this mean? Therefore, C belongs to closed interval PQ, which is subset of closed interval AB. Therefore, I can say that C belongs to closed interval AB. So due to this reason, now C falls in closed interval AB. First of all, I have found some C from R, and now I have shown that C belongs to closed interval AB. Actually, I want to find out C from closed interval AB so that f of c equal to alpha. Okay, do you understand?
Yes, sir.
Fine. Now I want to show that f of c equal to alpha. Actually, I want to show that these two are same, so I must have to show that modulus of f of c less than alpha. In order to prove that, we shall prove that f of c less than or equal to alpha, or sorry, f of c minus alpha for every epsilon greater than 0. We shall show that modulus of f of c minus alpha is less than epsilon. So since R is order field, if this is true for all epsilon greater than 0, then I must have f of c equal to alpha. So from where I should begin in order to prove this? I should take some
Epsilon.
yes. Now f from closed interval AB to R is continuous and C belongs to AB. What does this mean? C is a member of AB. Epsilon is positive. There exists some delta greater than 0 such that x minus c less than delta implies that fx minus fc less than epsilon. Therefore, c minus delta less than x less than c plus delta. This implies that fc minus epsilon let me say this to be 2. 1 I have taken anywhere now. Let me say this to be 1. See, this is the situation. This is A, this is B, this is P, this is Q. Let me say this is C, this is C minus delta, this is C plus D. Okay? And look at this, C minus delta to C plus delta. This portion. If I take intersection of C minus delta with A, in capital A I have taken elements of the form fx less than or equal to fx less than alpha, and in this set I have taken fx greater than or equals to alpha. So there are always, you can find out some elements which are let me say this to be T1 and T2. It is clear that from the graph you can see C minus delta to C plus delta. If I take intersection of this with A is not equal to phi, and C minus delta to C plus delta intersection with B is also non-empty. Okay, you can always find out some element here. Now, since this intersection is non-empty, you can find out some element in their intersection. Okay, so there exists T1 belongs to A, T2 belongs to B, such that T1 and T2 belongs to this open interval. Okay, you can find out one from A, another element from B, so that T1, T2 belongs to this. Therefore, C minus delta less than T1 less than C plus delta, C minus delta less than T2 less than C plus delta. Now by 1 you can see that whenever your x is in C minus delta to C plus delta, Fc minus epsilon less than Fx less than Fc plus epsilon. So Fc minus epsilon less than f of T1 less than f of C plus epsilon. From this f of C minus epsilon now T1 belongs to A. Okay, so since T1 is in A, f of T1 is strictly less than alpha. By definition of capital A, see, whenever some element is in A, you can say that fx is less than alpha. Since T1 belongs to A, you can say that f of T1 less than alpha. Similarly, T2 belongs to B, therefore f of T2 is greater than or equals to alpha. So let me write it. T1 belongs to A and T2 belongs to B. F of T1 less than alpha and f of T2 greater than or equals to alpha. So now from this you can say that f of C minus epsilon less than f of T1, f of T1 less than alpha, alpha less than or equal to f of T2, and f of T2 is strictly less than fc plus epsilon. Now let me put this and this together. For fc minus epsilon less than alpha less than fc plus epsilon. Therefore, fc minus alpha less than epsilon. Since epsilon is arbitrary, and this is true for every epsilon greater than 0. Therefore, you can say that fc equal to alpha. Therefore, for every alpha belongs to R with n less than or equal to alpha less than or equal to capital M, there exists some C belongs to closed interval AB such that f of C equal to alpha. Here, you understand the proof?
Yes, sir.
It is very simple actually, but little bit lengthy. So this is known as intermediate value theorem. This is a very important result. C, from where I have found C. C is nothing but LUB of our defined set A. This is my set A. ये आप यहाँ से देख सकते हैं कि मैंने जो LUB ली है सेट A की, और यहाँ LUB will be somewhere here. ये LUB है सेट A की, उसके मैंने नाम दिया है C and f of C equal to मैंने शो किया है अल्फा. Okay, so f assumes every value between its maximum and minimum. So now let me take one remark. So this is very important remark. The intermediate value theorem does not hold true if the closed interval AB is replaced by some other subset of R. IVT means intermediate value theorem. If does not hold, if closed interval AB does not hold true if the closed interval AB is replaced by some other subset of R. So let me take one example corresponding to this. So let f is a function from closed interval 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 to R, and fx is defined by fx equal to x. Clear? And clearly this, since this is an identity function, this is continuous on x. What is x? Okay. So this is identity function, therefore it is continuous. Also, what is maximum or supremum? What is fx? Fx is just x. So what is supremum value? Is 4. What is infimum? Go.
0.
Yes. This becomes 0. Now let us take one value between 0 and 4. But look at this, there doesn't exist any c from x such that f of c equal to 2. F of c means here you can see that f of c is nothing but c. ये c क्योंकि ये 2, 2, 3 function is not defined. Look at this. I have skipped one interval 1, 2, 3. So if I take any value between 1, 2, 3, I cannot find c from this x so that f of c equal to that number. Okay. Reason is this: if f of c equal to 2, then c equal to 2, which does not belong to 0, 1, union 3, 2. Do you understand why this closed interval cannot be replaced by any other subset of R? Here, so this is intermediate value theorem. The next result is Bolzano theorem. What does it tell us? let f from AB to R be a continuous if FA and FB and FB are of opposite sign or different sign. Then prove that there exists at least one C belongs to AB such that f of C equal to 0. So this is a direct application of previous rule. How can you prove? Think, Vaibhav.
हाँ सर.
So it is given that FA and FB are of opposite sign. So this implies what is the product Fn into Fb? If you take their product, then it is always negative. The reason is this: if Fa is positive, then Fb must be negative since they are of different sign. Okay, so plus into minus, that is minus. If Fa is negative, then according to our data, Fb must be positive. Again, minus into plus is minus. So in any case, you can say that Fa into Fb is negative. Okay. In particular, let me take f of A is less than 0 and f of B greater than 0. Therefore, you can see that f of A less than 0, this is less than f of B. Okay. So this implies that m less than or equal to f of A, because m is infimum, which is less than 0, and capital M is supremum in the previous result. Therefore, m less than 0 less than capital M. So by intermediate value theorem, there exists some C belongs to R such that f of C equal to 0. Here rather than R, here since f is defined on closed interval, let me put here. Clear? So this is known as Bolzano theorem. See, I told you I will show you another proof of intermediate value theorem. This is the first proof of intermediate value theorem. Now let me give you a rough idea of intermediate value theorem. Second proof is this. This proof I will use sequential criteria actually. And let me assume that Fa and Fb are different. Otherwise, it becomes constant. Suppose assume that Fa and Fb are different. K is any number between Fa and Fb. The time, it's 11 o'clock. 12. So next time we will prove the another proof of intermediate value theorem. Okay. So we stop our discussion because I need to go further. समझ में आया सभी को? ये रिजल्ट बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट रिजल्ट है, ठीक है, इंटरमीडिएट वैल्यू थ्योरम. प्रूफ इज तो वेरी सिंपल. So goodbye.
Goodbye, sir.